People, thank you for tuning in to Curtis Shaw TV. I've got a special guest with me today, a Manchester United legend, Dwight Yorke in the building. How are you, bro? Pleasure to have you here, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be on your podcast, mate. You've been chasing me for a while, so I thought that this is live. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, like most Premier League defenders, man, I've been chasing you for a little while, bro. No, but listen, obviously it's the Arsenal Manchester United game this weekend. Huge game. Obviously, me being an Arsenal fan, I've seen you inflict a lot of pain on my team over the years. So look, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. But just quickly, we'll go through it. Obviously, coming from the Caribbean, coming from Trinidad and Tobago, what was it like for you when you came to England? Obviously, you signed for Aston Villa and then went on to Man United. What was it like when you first moved over here?
Yeah, what I can say is not as easy as it seems to be these days. I mean, when I came over, pretty much unknown.
Yeah,
As you know, the West Indies is known for their cricket.
yeah,
So just a kid, 16-year-old kid, leaving the islands of Trinidad and Tobago, pretty much going into the unknown, professionalism,
yeah,
professional football. No one has made it at that level or been given a chance to show the difficulties. But I suppose I wanted to be the first and wanted to be different, and this was an opportunity of a lifetime, and I dedicated my life to it and make sure that I was obviously going to make it. So I
yeah,
know that I couldn't be on par with everybody else. I had to be different. I had to work extremely hard.
yeah.
Imagine, obviously, coming over to England in the middle of winter,
Oh,
very
man.
little winter clothes, no friends, no family. Yeah, it was pretty daunting and tough at the first beginning, but I glad I hang in there. And as like I said to you, that I felt that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I needed to put my best foot forward. And
Yeah,
I was lucky that I've been brought into a football club at that time, Aston Villa, who was really a family club and gone all out to make sure that I made that transition from Caribbean to England.
yeah.
And they set me up pretty good, and it was down to me what I wanted to
To
go
do.
through that difficulty to make it to the next level.
So obviously you get the move to Manchester United, like just unbelievable that you came over, you hit the ground running so well at Aston Villa. You get the move to Manchester United, and in your first season you win the treble. Something that's never been done in recent times in the Premier League. What was that like for you that season, just winning three trophies in your first season at United?
Well, first to begin with, I mean, the 9.5 years I spent at Villa was pretty much a learning curve to the level that I got to for the interest of the likes of Manchester United and other big clubs around Europe that was lurking.
Yeah,
So I owe a lot to Aston Villa in terms of my what I consider my football education. I learned from the late Sir Regis, people like David Platt, Gordon Cowans,
yeah,
even Big Fashanu and those type of guys who had sort of like I've been a a bit of a junior to these guys, but learning the trade behind the scene and what it takes to man up in these very difficult Premier League football. So
yeah,
I mean, Villa, the 10 years I was at Villa, it was really and truly amazing. The fans and the people, I had a good rapport there with the fans. I was idolized by the fans.
yeah,
It took a few years to get them round, but in the end, once I got my foot in the door and I started producing what I know I could produce, then that was incredible. So, I was lucky enough to be involved in two League Cup. I didn't play the first one, but I won the second one in '96.
yeah,
So I was very lucky in that sense. And then, of course, I wanted to take my game to another level.
yeah,
And so with the likes of Man United, you don't really say no. And the reason I left purely and simple Aston Villa, which, as I said before, I was very idolized at that football club. I
yeah.
wanted to win trophies, and so the jump from Aston Villa to Man United, I expected to win some type of trophy, and that was the main reason I
You
I
went
went
there.
to the first place. But like you mentioned, to to have won the 3 trophies in my first year was, I mean, you talk about the perfect scenario or sport, and that
Yeah.
was probably the best thing could have happened. Like, my timing was
Yeah.
incredible. Players I was playing was incredible to play with. Certainly, the manager was the force behind our success,
Yeah.
and been driven by his vision for the football club, and we all obviously buy into that. But the one thing that I've always stood out, or I've always said stand out at Man United, these players before I joined the club had all won major trophies and FA Cups and the Premier League. I didn't,
Yeah.
and they were constantly, the intensity in the training, the expectation from the fans and everything else was just huge, and you either embrace it and go with it, or you get left behind. And
Yeah.
I was a kid from the Caribbean. I was very, I was very confident. I feel
Yeah,
like
man.
I was in a good place when I joined the club. I was coming there for a record fee at the time,
Yeah.
so everything just seems to have set up. But I couldn't imagine for a moment that we were going to win all 3
Yeah.
in one year, which was obviously the pinnacle of my career, to
Yeah.
be the top scorer. You see people saying assist and stuff and all that. I mean, if you check the stats, which I recently checked, I mean, I scored 29 and make an assist in 23 goals.
Jeez.
So that's the
Mad.
kind of impact that I had at the club. But often enough, I think what seems to be left behind a little bit is that, again, you say that's a historical moment, winning 3 trophies in one year, which was great.
Yeah.
But we also won 3 Premier League in my time that no other team have ever done. So that's another, history-breaking moment. And
Yeah.
so that seems to get washed by the side, and everybody seems to be talking about the treble, which
Treble.
quite right, because it's obviously it's very unique and it's historical for the football club, and certainly
Yeah.
where English teams is concerned, no other English team has been able to do it.
Yeah,
But
man.
it is that my time of being at United, we had 3 Premier League in a row that nobody has been able to have done that.
It's crazy. Do you know what it was, Dwight? Even as me being an Arsenal fan, I admired you and Andy Cole, that partnership, highly. Obviously yourself, my Caribbean roots as well. And obviously Andy Cole, I'm from Nottingham as well, where Andy Cole is from.
Uh,
So even being an Arsenal fan, I had a lot of admiration for the partnership that you and Andy Cole had. I remember that game against Barcelona in the new camp, and you two were just the wavelength that you two was on. I see an interview that Andy Cole did the other day, and he said, "You're the best player he ever played with." He said you had a unique and an instant connection that he said you can't describe it, you can't teach it. He said the two of you were like brothers off the pitch, and you had a great connection on the pitch. What was that partnership like with you and Andy Cole?
well, I mean, it was obviously a dream come true. I mean, I've always admired Coley from a distance, and
Yeah.
what he was doing at Newcastle before he went to United, and then when he went to United, we have crossed paths on few occasions, and we kind of talked a few times, but not really pally-wally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when I got to United, then there was a huge talk about Coley, and I have a lot of admiration for him as an individual, because he was linked to be moving out the club. So he
Okay.
was the one that was supposed to be going to make way for me to come.
Mm.
And I think what a lot of people don't recognize Coley, and Coley has gone out his way. He had shown me in and around Manchester the areas to have lived in, where not to go to Moss Side by yourself, make sure
Yeah.
those kind of places. Not that Moss Side is a bad place, but he's just making me aware of certain things,
Yeah.
the areas to live. And on top of that, he'd invite me to his family home for some West Indian food as well. So,
Yeah.
someone who was leaving the football club for have taken this time out on his way and showed me in and around Manchester, that just tells you the map of the person. And I think Coley deserves a lot of credit. Now, our partnership has grown from that. And of course, we become very close. I think that helps. But equally, you can't ignore that we had an outstanding team from back to front. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
had
man.
Michael in goal, and Yap Stamp and Roy Keane and Scholes and Becks and Giggs. I mean, the names just keep rolling off your tongue. Like if
Yeah.
it's like uh, but it was just sensational. I mean, you couldn't have played in a better team, I think, and of course it proves that. But Coley and I had a unique way, and he describes it better than me. He says we're totally opposite
Yeah.
in things that we do, but there is this magical moment when we get on the pitch, everything seems to click, and I think opposite always seems to attract in many
Mm.
respects. Likes as a number nine, what I consider a proper number nine, likes to go beyond defenders, stretch defenders. He's quick, he's got an eye for a goal, he links the play well. Whereas I'm the one who comes short between midfield and defenders, which is a bit of a nightmare for them to get into
Yeah.
pockets.
Yeah.
And we seem to complement each other very well. And the format that we had and the teammates that we had around us, football was pretty, I won't say easy, but it was very enjoyable to play at that time. And so the magic of football, not often you play throughout your career where you got a magical moment, and that was just seems to be a magical moment. We were all at the very good age. We were at the top of our game,
Yeah.
and we just send that destruction and that fear factor in and around teams when we turned up, and it was just absolutely joy. So yeah, Corey and I are tight. We become even tighter now that we got closer to our age and stuff. We
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
frequently. So that friendship just not what we achieve on the football pitch. It extends beyond that. So I was
Yeah.
very grateful to play with him. But like I say in the interview, I will always acknowledge my teammates that I had around us, because without them, me and Coley would not have scored that many goals. And the accolade and the recognition that we get from it was purely down to our teammates as well.
Yeah, man. What a team that was, man. I mean, obviously Paul Scholes. A lot of people talk about, Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, all of that. What was Scholes like to play with as a striker? He looks like a striker's dream to play with, because those passes he just puts them on a plate. How good was Scholes?
Yeah, I think he's arguably one of the best I've seen. I mean, there was nothing flamboyant about him. You just look at his persona, how he carries himself. He's very normal guy. But when he gets on that football pitch, he's a wizard. And not
Yeah.
wizard because he dribbled like Ronaldo or like me or somebody else. He doesn't go past you in that sense. But he just had a real knack of making space without dribbling you,
Yeah.
creating it. And when you look at a player, you try to find out their weaknesses and their strengths, and you try to see where you're good at and what everybody's got what they're good at, what they're so good at, and all that. Scholes is a 9 out of 10 most of the time with everything. I mean, he's not the best dribbler. I think he first admitted,
Mm.
but you give him ping around, create space, get on the end of stuff, score goals, volley.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at some of the goals that he scored is just spectacular. And I think he got better with age, I think, as
Yeah.
you often do as a player. And it was just the perfect time for us to play with him. And he loved it. He loved getting on the end of goals as well, and as well as creating for you. So he was a kind of complete midfielder that you want to supply you with the ammunition to cause those destruction against teams that we did.
Yeah, man, proper player still. Well, what
Yeah.
was what was Ferguson like to play for? Because I'm sure him and Graham Taylor may be different, but what was Ferguson like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, Graham Taylor, I only had Graham Taylor pretty much for a year. Don't forget, in 1990, he had got the England job, so he had left
Yeah,
and he apologized that he was leaving me behind.
yeah,
But he had to do what to do, and I had to grow up very quickly. I only had a 2.5 year contract, but back in the days there, it was only 3 foreigners allowed, and it's
oh
not like
yeah,
how many foreigners it is. People forget that, the difficulty of back in those years. So obviously, I was very grateful for Graham to really give me the opportunity to get to England in the first place. I'm always going to be the late Graham Taylor, sorry. So because
yeah,
of all the greatness, he had opened up the door for me. But so Alex is one of those guys that, again, unique in his way of doing things. got the best out of the players, have a good eye for players, bringing in the right player to the football club to move the football club
Yeah.
forward. I'll never forget his first team talk when he says, we are united. Don't be shy. Don't be intimidated. This is what you made. You are the best at this football club. Everybody wants a piece of you. Show them what you are. Be brave, and go and express yourself. So the moment he says, be brave and go express yourself, well, that's
You
the last
love
thing
that. Yeah.
So, and I just embrace that.
Yeah.
Often that kind of conversation can be a bit daunting,
Yeah.
but I embrace it because I was in a good place. Football is all I knew, and get me on a football pitch, you can make things happen. So
Yeah.
I was very thankful. But he was just more than a manager for a lot of us. He was a father figure in many respects, someone that you can talk to, and people think because you're a top footballer, you don't have issues or problems like normal
Of
people do.
course.
You do, and so he was always a guiding hand to. If you needed that sort of guidance, you can always open the door, knock on his door, and speak to him. And he was always the first to try and guide you in the right direction. So so Alex
Yeah.
was a human being as well as an amazing manager that gets the best out of the players. So,
Yeah.
his record again just speaks for itself. There's not much more I can say about what you don't already know about Sir Alex, but it's just incredible that I had the opportunity to play under him for 4 years.
Yeah.
Treble and win 3 Premier League. Those are historical moments, and so. Here we are 23 years later, and we're still talking about those moments. So it just goes to show the impact that he had on everybody in and around it. It's the football club and the time that he has spent as a manager at that football club. He had built a dynasty there.
Yeah, man. Obviously, my channel's mainly Arsenal based, so I've got to integrate Arsenal in there a little bit. I remember a hat trick you scored against Arsenal at Old Trafford when you hammered us one time. I think it was 5 or 6-1. That was a bad day at Old Trafford. But what was the Arsenal team like when you was at United? I think obviously they won the 2001-2002 title at Old Trafford actually, with Wiltord. But did you feel like you and them was, the two teams constantly fighting for the title?
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal is a huge team. I mean, a great deal of respect. The invincible team, as you call it, back before I left Man United, but certainly was one of the most difficult teams to play. I mean, my days at Villa, they probably don't like me. I don't think Seaman really likes me because I always seems to get the better of him, and I'm often. Every time I see him now, he tried to, grab hold of me and but I've always seems to get the ball in the back of the net against him. But he's become a good friend of mine as well. So, we take a little bit of a Mickey from each other occasionally. And I remember even my Villa days semi-final, that 96 when we won at Wembley, we knocked Arsenal out. We come from 2-0 down at Villa. Scored 2 at Highbury, and it was 0-0 back at. It's not easy to go to Highbury back in the days with Ian Wright and Bergkamp and people like Tony Adams and Martin Keown. Really tough people to play against. Vieira, all those guys in midfield. I mean, it was brutal. But I always loved the challenge. I always loved Arsenal. I've always had an admiration for what that football team had done for years, the style of football. So. You're not alone, even though the enemy against them. You can't stop but to admire them. And again, probably one of my cheekiest goal in '96 playing for Villa. I tripped David Seaman, and from that day, I think probably one of the first person to do the dink in the Premier League, and he doesn't like it. This was England #1 at the time, and
you've come in and chipped him.
Here and give him one of those cheeky little penalties. I don't think it went down too well with him, but that was to get us in Europe. So that was huge. I know the consequences but that's again the height of my my career. And then of course the hat trick against them, playing for United. Not often enough you can say you score a hat trick against Arsenal. But certainly back in those days, the invincible team before that. It was incredible, Will Thor and all those guys was, I mean, Overmars. I mean, they're a huge team. And Bergkamp, again, one of the most skillful player in the Premier League. Ian Wright, one of the best goal scorers.
Yeah.
Those type of guys. And you got what's his name, Ray
Thierry
Parler.
Henry and
Ray Parler, hardworking, and just grafting. Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, Arsenal was definitely the team that used to push us all the way. And if you remember in that treble winning year, the excitement on the last day, we needed a point. We needed 3 points, and then so again they were right on our heels, and we needed to beat obviously Tottenham at home that last game to just get over the line to make that completion of the treble. So
yeah,
that Arsenal team, I mean, tough,
tough
proper
team.
team. What I call it is a proper team. That team. So,
Was you ever linked with Arsenal at any time in your career?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was, but the United thing, as I said, for me, had worked out well. But you got the likes of Thierry Henry and Bergkamp and those type of guys.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
It was incredible, and I mean, I'm glad I made the move to Arsenal, to Man United. But Arsenal was just a team that I have always admired. The way they play,
Yeah.
was really exciting time. I mean, Premier League football was proper. You could
Yeah,
tackle, you
man.
could fly around. People used to really give you a good ironing and pick you up and let's go again. You can't do that so much in the game, and people squaring up to each other and firing those games up. So, even though there is no goal, but there's some passion left there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you used to have a lot of more local guys, 5,
Yeah.
6, when I consider British English guys who had that tradition that goes in the history of those derby. Now, you
Not
look
so
at the
much.
derby and the history is not so much. You might get one or
Yeah.
two local, and the rest is pretty much foreigners. So that I think that kind of takes away the little spark from it, although it's still huge and it means a lot to a lot of people when those games comes up. But the lackluster of you can't tackle and you can't get into
Yeah.
people like you used to. I think that just unfortunately the game has gone a little bit different to what it is. Still great, don't get me wrong, because the Premier League is the most watched league in and around the world, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
But when it comes to derby, this kind of game that's coming up at the weekend, you
It's
couldn't
not.
wait to be up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're ref this game because tackles was going to be flying around, and the game was going to be played at 90 miles an hour. And even though if it turned out a 0-0, there's some good talking points
Yeah.
in those.
Yeah. Definitely.
Unfortunately, not so much these days.
What do you make of Man United and Arsenal now? What do you make of them now? I see an interview you did I think yesterday about Martial. What have you made of, I mean, Arsenal and Man United are not the top two teams anymore. It's been Manchester City and Liverpool. What have you made of United and Arsenal over the last few years?
Well, I think that obviously the transition of coaches, we had a manager for a long period of time, so is Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that kind of, unfortunately, a new era for both sets of club, different managers with different ideas, different players didn't quite work out. A lot of expected when you're not producing the goods straight away at those clubs, you tend to get, pretty much fired or sacked. And so there was no real build of momentum. And so, yeah, I mean, you said it there. Those two teams are no longer the top teams like they used to. Obviously, big names in the game still and does carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Premier League and always will say have a say in the outcome of the Premier League one way or the other. But yeah, when you consider where these two teams were in previous years gone by,
yeah,
you choose between them, isn't it? I mean, yeah, but now there is this seemed like a little bit of a gap, although I feel that United has made great progress, certainly in the last year or so. And of course, near the top of the Premier League, if you're a Man United fan, the wheels in your head will be spinning and think, the good times back. And then something obviously like Sheffield United come and happen a few days, just kind of like stucking out of you a little bit more, just to bring you back down to realization a little bit. But I'm sure that will hopefully put the players in good stead. And of course, Arteta, who's come in. You got Oli at the helm of Man United. You got
Yeah.
Arteta, two ex-players, know the football club very well. I think Arteta got a little bit more of a difficult job than Oli, but with the
Yeah.
same scrutiny, the same expectation. And as a manager, as an aspiring manager, so to speak, sorry, you got to find ways of to win football match that buys you time when you're in these high profile games so you can cement your ideas over eventually.
Yeah.
And so Oli has done that. He's got to 3 semifinals, well, 4 semifinals. Unfortunately, he hasn't got over the line.
Yeah.
But at some point, you will be judged on trophies whether you're a player or a manager at these big clubs. Oli hasn't been able to do that, and yet Arteta, in such a short space of time, has been able to win one, and so that buys you a little time.
Yeah.
Buys you time to cement, and maybe even though he's doing a fantastic job at this stage, next season you expect Arsenal to close the gap, and once people are seeing that, then I think they will be happy. But all he needs to do the same. So we'll wait and see what the season are. But if you're a United fan in this position right now, they will be totally happy about it. And, like I said, I've had the experience of winning Premier League. You don't get too excited in the middle of the season. It's just too much game.
Yeah.
It's just too much game to go. But there's that must be a good feel factor for them.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration 2 months ago, there wasn't even in the talk about winning the Premier League. Maybe a top 4 was about the best United could have done. So again, Oli and his players deserve a lot of credit for what they are. And Arteta came through a very difficult period. And yet, so he's turned things around. And as a manager, those are the things that you're looking for, quality in a manager. And these two at the moment seems to have produced it. So hopefully in the near future, we'll see these two. I think, there's a cycle goes around. So
Yeah.
these two teams will definitely be back at the top eventually, but it might be a year or two away from all of that. But Liverpool and City are really making noise at the moment too.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, they got 2 top managers there, and that maybe gives them the advantage at the moment. Before we wrap up, because I know it's late where you are at the moment, I'm gonna let you go. Have you considered going into management yourself? Because I read that you've done your coaching badges. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, the truth be told, I've done my A license. I'm in the middle of my pro license right now, and because of the pandemic, it's make life difficult. Yeah, I'm very keen on going into management now. I've applied for 2 jobs in the past and not got response from it.
Wow.
So I've gone back and tried to cross all the T's and dot the I's. The challenge of Black managers getting in since the Black Lives Matter movements, and so there's been some challenging, difficult time for us, and we need to make changes. And I intend to try and do that. And by having my qualifications, obviously, they can't say that I haven't got that now. Although we know there is people been fast forward into jobs, been given opportunities, which I embrace. I'm all for it because there have been a time where this merry-go-round of managers been getting sacked and getting into another jobs and so on. And I think it's good when young players have been given an opportunity, or young managers been given an opportunity to manage football clubs. But what we are saying is that we feel as Black aspiring managers that we are not given the same platform or the same opportunity. And there's been some kind of discrimination towards that. You just have to look around you and you can see in the Premier League there is simply no Black managers, and we got one now in the Championship with Chris Newton.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there haven't been really a lower division. Yes, there might be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Considering how many Black players have actually graced the Premier League and people out there with qualification, for some reason that we are just not been given the chance. And if you look around the world, as well as deep as Italy and Germany and Spain, and there is no Black managers, you know what I mean? So there must be a reason for it, and the simple reason is that there there is this stereotype
Yeah.
of black people are not competent or not clever or cannot run an organization or they're not intelligent enough, but yet we are, you know, good enough to play for your football club
Yeah.
and be a fantastic player throughout your 20 years. But yet, when it comes to be given an opportunity at that level, for some reason, the stereotype that they continue to have about individual is simply not right. I think that's need to change. People like myself need to change that, and that's why I'm fighting the cause. I feel not just with my experience, but I feel that I'm ready. I'm at that stage of my life now where I feel that I'm prepared well enough. I know what dressing rooms like. I know how to win football matches. I feel I've always been able to relate to the players throughout. You look at my history with players. Everybody says how good I am in the dressing room. I feel I can contribute that, and I've got a team that I'm working with. That if I do get that opportunity, that the people in and around me is very crucial for me to be successful. So I'm doing all the work. I'm doing all the groundwork and make sure I'm crossing all the T's and dot all the I's. So
That's it.
there's no excuses. So yeah, I'm here to fight the cause, and I'm hoping that I get that chance in breaking into management. I'm really keen on it, and I'm not doing it just for the sake of it. I'm doing it
Yeah.
because I genuinely believe that I can be a success at it, and I just want one chance. I don't
That's
need
it.
three or four, but I think one will be enough, and then that way people can see the qualities that you have as an individual going forward.
I mean, listen, Dwight, you did big things in your football career. I'm sure there's no reason you can't do things in your management career. You know, sometimes we have to work twice as hard. You know how it goes, bro. But
Yeah, well, I know that for a fact. I mean, when I came to England, I've always been told that you got to do three times the amount of work if to get
yeah,
one. You always have to be better. You can't be on the same parallel, and it proves. And that's always been something I've taken on.
yeah,
And so it's not a bad way to approach it. But ultimately, you're in control of that when you had that chance. And unfortunately, you're not in control of this, where when
yeah,
you're playing, you're in control because you're on the field and you can do that. At the moment, there's people in control who's in high position who would they take a chance with you and give you that opportunity to show what you're capable of doing. We have been crying out for black players or black managers to be given that chance. We know the Black Lives Matters movement kind
yeah,
of moved a lot of talk, a lot of good things we've seen happening. We still haven't seen anything significant to say, yeah, the real changes are coming. And so when that change is about to happen, hopefully, well, not hopefully, I will be already prepared, done all my badges. As I said, I'm
yeah,
in the middle of the pro license, which is already qualify you enough to get a job. But
yeah,
as we said, people don't need that, and some people are getting their jobs without it. But the moment I applied for a job, the first thing they asked me if I got my badge, and so
yeah,
you know where that is coming. So I thought, right, get those qualifications in place, and then let's see what's the excuse will be next when I put my name on the job.
that's
So
it, man.
that's the way to go, and I'm preparing well for it, and I'm learning, watching, and I've been going back to United and learning the trade and watching from behind the scene things that I like, things I don't. The one thing that they can't take away from you. I've always been a football man
Yeah.
through and through, and that's what I know is best. I might not know how to balance the other stuff, but certainly when it comes to football, I know that kind of stuff. So we'll see. Certainly in the next year or two, I'm expecting to break into management.
Yeah, man. Any possibility of you going back to United, maybe in a coaching role or anything?
Yeah, I've got that ambassador role there, so I've got access to go in. I've made
Yeah,
it clear, the coaching role and the managerial role is two different things, and
yeah,
part of the course. You want to be able to coach because you're still young and understand, but you've got specialist people in those positions to make sure and coach.
yeah,
And management and coach, you got to define two. You can't be a coach anymore and be a manager. So you got to
mm,
and these courses are trying to prepare you. The reason why these guys who are teaching you football or coaching you football is not just about the coaching aspect, it's about the management aspect of the whole football club, of running the club on a day-to-day basis. So that's what I'm learning right now. The football side, I've got enough knowledge in that
Yeah, yeah.
department. But my coaches and the people who I will hopefully gather as part of my backroom staff to do that kind of work for you. As you obviously you'll be able to help out being a football man,
Yeah.
but basically you want to be able to manage, and that's what I'm learning, not the football aspect. Yes, there are
Yeah.
some football elements in there, but it's basically about more management skills and getting the best out of players and what and getting your team ready to win football matches on a week-to-week basis.
That's it, man. Listen, Dwight, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I know it's late at night. You probably want to get to bed.
Yes.
Arsenal, Man United this weekend. If Arsenal win, I might drop you a little message. If we lose, then I'll probably stay quiet.
No, man. Well, yeah, listen, either way, you should do. The game of sports, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And let's just hope that we have a good game of football and let these two football clubs go head to head. And, hopefully people will see a fantastic game and continue to talk about the two clubs that represent the English Premier game for so many years. And we want to see them back where they belong, which is at the top.
Yeah, let's hope so. Dwight Yorke, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on, my bro.
Okay, man. You take care.
Take care.